Ready? What I love about Cajun cooking is that it's so flavorful. But here's the catch for me. I don't like cayenne. I don't like hot and spicy. So I'm kind of the softer, cooler side of Cajun cuisine. So what I do when I make my shrimp creole, I make mine with some sauteed onions, and occasionally I will use some red or yellow bell pepper. But I don't like to use green because it's hotter. So once I've sauteed my onions in a little bit of garlic, olive oil, and butter, then I also take my stewed tomatoes, and lots of times I like to use the tomatoes that already have a little basil, garlic, and oregano, because to me there's never too much garlic in there. So I go ahead and I let that warm up a little bit. I've sauteed my shrimp also in a little garlic, olive oil, butter, and a little Cajun seasoning, but not all the way because you don't want to overcook your shrimp. And so I love to add the shrimp back in there and let all of that meld together. And then I add a little bit more of just regular pepper, not cayenne pepper, just regular pepper. I also add a little bit of basil. And then we've got a little bit of oregano. So you can say it's a little bit Cajun, it's a little bit Italian, but I love all of these flavors together, okay? And then the other thing I add that is probably a little more Italian than it is Cajun, but I always love to add a little bit of cheese. So I have a little bit of Parmesan cheese as that starts to warm up just a little bit and melts that cheese. And you'll notice too that I've drained the tomatoes because I didn't want all of that juice, because I want my juice, aside from the tomatoes, I'm going to add a little bit, just a splash of heavy cream, okay? That's how come I call it my creamy shrimp creole. And you can make this with crawfish. I've even made it with chicken. All of these flavors go very well together. Now, while that's warming up and that's continuing to cook, I like to make creamy cheese grits instead of rice. Most people would serve this over rice, but I'm going to do a little bit of heavy cream after I've made my rice. And then what I do too is, since I always keep some type of cheese in the refrigerator, I don't always use the same kind. I use whatever's available. This is a little bit of Asiago, so I grate a little bit of that in there. And then I'm also going to do a little bit of brie, just because brie is so creamy. And if you like your grits creamy, then this is the perfect thing to use. You take the rind off, and then you use that. And after you have checked the consistency, it's a little bit thick, so I'm going to go ahead and add a little bit more of the heavy cream. And if you don't want to use too much of that, you can use plain old evaporated milk. Oh, plus, let me tell you this. I use the secret in my grits. Instead of just using boiling water, you actually use chicken stock. When you're making savory grits, not for your breakfast grits, but savory grits, use chicken stock instead of just regular water. You could also use some milk or skim milk, whatever you want to do for your liquid. But that is how I do it. But the brie, the Asiago, a little bit of pepper. Where's my salt? A little bit of salt. I'm an eyeballer. I'm kind of like my grandmother. I don't really have a recipe set aside. I like to just eyeball it a little bit. So I too am going to use just a little bit of evaporated milk. Get this a little creamier. Okay, but for the most part, that is going to be cooked. So what I'm going to do now, after you get your cheese grits to where they need to be, I'm going to grab my dish, serve up just like you would rice. Serve up a little bit of the grits, kind of your base. Then you're going to take, ooh, doesn't that look delicious? A little bit of your shrimp creole, creamy shrimp creole. Take this and put it right over the grits. And that, my friend, is a meal in itself. And of course, I don't think any dinner is complete without dessert. You can tell I'm a Southern girl. I have made my world famous Bayou brownies to have something sweet to taste at the end. That is my famous shrimp Creole, creamy style. Okay.